All right, welcome back everyone. Today we're diving into a brand new explainer and we are unpacking the recent financial disclosures from Nilkamal Limited. Specifically, we're looking at their Q1 FY27 results, which honestly are a total masterclass in corporate resilience. If you've been tracking the manufacturing and retail sectors lately, you already know it's been a pretty bumpy ride globally. But looking at how Nilkamal is navigating these crazy macroeconomic crosswinds, and spoiler alert, it takes a whole lot more than just raising prices, gives us a really fascinating blueprint for how to balance short-term shocks with long-term financial health. Here is our roadmap for this explainer. First up, we'll look at Q1 results and navigating the storm. Second, unpacking the operating costs. Third, analyzing the balance sheet. Fourth, surviving a competitive landscape. And finally, credit ratings and market trust. Let's get into it. Section 1. Q1 results, navigating the storm. So early FY27? Yeah, it was absolutely no walk in the park for the manufacturing sector. Right off the bat, the immediate consequence was a massive 15% spike in major raw material costs since March 2026. Things like polypropylene and polyethylene, which are absolutely critical for Nilkamal's plastic products, just shot up dramatically following supply disruptions in West Asia. And, when your core input costs jump by literally half in just a few short months, it forces a complete reevaluation of your immediate strategy. Predictably, sudden cost escalations like this often lead industrial customers to suddenly decide, hey, maybe we can wait a few more quarters to buy. And that massive raw material spike, well, it translated directly to the top line. Q1 FY26 standalone net sales sat at 864 crores, but Q1 FY27 came in at 799 crores. So that's a 7.5% degrowth. The B2B segment, which is super sensitive to input costs and those customer purchase deferments we just talked about, really took the brunt of the impact here. But wait, a 7.5% drop in overall revenue? When you look closer, it's actually a story of mitigation, not just a story of loss. The mitigation strategy becomes super obvious when we compare the segments side by side. On one hand, B2B volume saw a heavy 37% degrowth. Ouch, right? But on the other hand, the retail and e-commerce segment stepped up to the plate, clocking a really solid 13% growth. Even more impressively, this retail segment completely turned a corner by achieving a positive EBIT of 1.68 crores. For context, they were at a negative 9.5 crores the previous year. So through proactive price increases and really optimizing their product mix, Nilkamal managed to keep their overall value degrowth to just about 10%, while actually improving gross margins. It is a textbook example of using a diversified portfolio to cushion a localized blow. Moving right along, Section 2, unpacking the operating costs. Okay, let's ground this abstract concept of inflation into the hard numbers Nilkamal actually faces on the factory floor across its 12 facilities. Labor charges stand at a staggering 24,518 lakhs, and power and fuel costs sit at 8,852 lakhs. When you're running a capital-intensive manufacturing operation, these are what we call sticky costs. They just don't magically shrink the second customer demand slows down. Navigating this requires immense operational efficiency, especially when you're trying to scale up newer segments, like their mattresses and foam businesses at the exact same time. So, the absolutely crucial point here is how management frames all of this internally. The company openly acknowledges that they operate in commodity segments with high exposure to input price movements, specifically TDI and polyol prices in their foam business. But their focus is crystal clear. While margins might face short-term pressure from all this volatility, FY 26-27 is officially designated as a consolidation and margin discipline year. They aren't panicking. Instead, they are firmly holding the line on disciplined pricing. Which brings us to Section 3, analyzing the balance sheet. Pivoting over to the balance sheet, we can see this is effectively Nilkamal's shield against market volatility. They've undertaken a very deliberate asset-light strategy for their retail expansion. By focusing heavily on franchise-owned, franchise-operated, or FOFO formats, they've scaled their retail footprint to 100 operating stores. And they've done it without taking on the massive fixed costs of owning the real estate. Plus, they've drastically reduced their net borrowing to just 116 crores as of June 2026. Just to put that into perspective, that is down from 331 crores the previous year. That's a huge shift. And that aggressive debt reduction brings us to this highly comforting number right here, 0.17x. This is their improved debt-to-equity ratio for FY26. It is a massive 34.86% drop from the previous 0.27x. In a high interest rate environment where raw material costs are surging left and right, having virtually no leverage hanging over your head is a total game changer. It gives management the breathing room to actually make strategic long-term decisions rather than scrambling for desperate short-term cash grabs. Next up, Section 4, Surviving a Competitive Landscape. Now, a strong balance sheet isn't just for safety, it's a strategic weapon. The molded plastic and furniture industry in India has very few barriers to entry. I mean, it is absolutely teeming with micro, small, and medium unorganized players competing fiercely on price. So the real question we have to ask is this: how does a massive, organized player like Nilkamal maintain its edge without destroying its margins in a race to the bottom? The answer lies in their highly entrenched defensive moats. First off, their distribution network is staggering. We are talking over 1,200 channel partners and more than 20,000 dealers nationwide. You simply can't replicate that kind of deep market penetration into both urban and rural areas overnight. Second, there's the unshakable brand equity of the name Nilkamal, built over 4 long decades. When consumers buy furniture or businesses buy material handling solutions, that brand trust carries a real premium. And finally, their solid market position allows them to execute calibrated price revisions to pass on raw material costs. That's something smaller players really struggle to do without losing their customers entirely. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, Credit Ratings and Market Trust. Internal strategies are great, but external validation tells us if the market actually buys the narrative. Nilkamal's annual report quotes Jim Collins, saying, "The companies that endure are those that balance continuity with change." The tangible result of that philosophy is CareEdge Ratings reaffirming Nilkamal's long-term rating at Care AA Stable and their short-term rating at Care A1+. Let me tell you, in the world of corporate finance, a reaffirmed AA Stable rating during a period of massive geopolitical supply chain disruption, that is a resounding vote of confidence. Let me read this excerpt directly from the CareEdge report. They state, NKL continues to benefit from a strong financial risk profile, supported by healthy cash accruals, a comfortable capital structure, and adequate liquidity. This isn't just a grade on a piece of paper, it's a hard-earned trophy. It completely validates everything we just looked at regarding their conservative capital structuring, their asset-light retail push, and their robust defense against regional competitors. Which brings us to the future. Nilkamal is already expanding heavily into the premium mattress and foam segments with brands like Luxuria and Health Pro, pushing way beyond their traditional plastic furniture roots. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. With a fortified balance sheet, virtually no debt, and a rapidly evolving retail footprint, how will Nilkamal leverage this incredible stability to dominate the premium sleep solutions market next? It's a space that is totally ripe for disruption, and they clearly have the war chest to do it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.